let's go into Wolf Warrior. So
right.
I'm going to play the just a slideshow presentation on the side, and I want to start by asking Eric first, and then you, Wilco. Eric, did you like Wolf Warrior 1 and Wolf Warrior 2, or which one did you like more?
Yeah, I rewatched both of them in the past week. The first one, I actually liked it a little bit more this time. I mean, obviously, it was disappointing going into it, knowing that Wu Jing and Scott Adkins were going to go toe-to-toe, and it didn't really come correct with the fights necessarily. The final fight was pretty good, but it's not at the level that you would have hoped when these two guys came together. So that kind of distracted me a lot the first time I saw it, but watching it again recently, just kind of knowing what I was getting into, I thought the pacing was pretty good, and it entertained me enough to be a pass-grade film. But I like Wolf Warrior 2 a lot more, maybe because it's so ridiculous and action-packed. But yeah, some of the scenes in the second one, it's almost like a mix of cheesy, ridiculous, make-you-laugh moments with some actual fun action, legitimately fun action mixed in. And I really liked the Wu Jing dynamic there. So yeah, the second one was definitely superior for me.
Yeah, there's a couple of bits I want to talk about the action later.
Oh yeah,
Wilco, how did you find them?
Well, I am not a connoisseur of these type of Chinese action movies, or let's say the patriotic movies. I must say that Wolf Warrior 1 was fucking awesome. The first, because I haven't seen these movies at all. I know nothing about these. But when I saw the first movie, it won me over. I was in love with this first movie. This is the Chinese Rambo. And I think that it's like a classic. It has really the potential to be a classic movie in the line of Predator and the first Rambo, let's say. It's like, if I would be a small boy growing up in China right now, this Wolf Warrior would be my favorite movie, and I would use that as it would be my Predator, let's say, as a if I was a small Chinese boy growing up in 2015, because that's when it came out, right?
Yeah.
And so I thought it was really, really good, and I was surprised. I wasn't prepared that Scott Adkins was in it, and I was like, huh? And I thought there was a lot of cool stuff. Like, I thought the bad guy was pretty cool. That shot with the tank in his face, at one point, that crazy. And in the first half, I didn't even think it was patriotic. I thought it was a cool action movie. But then halfway it kicked in. Then I was like, this is what they mean with patriotic, with the I fight for China. I mean, but then I watched the second one. I was like, the first one, I was psyched. Let's do the second one. And I was like, what the hell is this? It was like, I thought I was looking at a Bollywood movie. I mean, that guy transformed from Rambo into Chuck Norris. I mean, what's going on there? This dude was like, he was like as powerful as any Bollywood cop that can just out of nowhere for no reason has superpowers. He's like Captain America. It's like he stopped a rocket with his bare hands. Like, what's going on here?
He used a mattress. To be fair, he used a mattress.
He used like a bedspread or something. Like, but still, he stopped a rocket.
That is my favorite scene in the whole film.
What's going on? It's like, no, I'm sorry. I felt very Bollywood to me. It was so exaggerated, and there was also, it was like they give Michael Bay shit. But I'm sorry, but this movie was so, that was like, like very, very little breathing room. It was like so nonstop action. Not as much as the movie we'll talk about later, but it had some story. But the thing is that, I'm sorry, I cannot say it's better, because I really loved the first movie. I guess for its simplicity, for it was more coherent, in my opinion, for what it tried to. And I guess the second one, if you really love that over the top thing, like him fighting on the water without needing to breathe and all that stuff,
yes.
If you go with the madness, I can understand that the second one is like Transformers. But the reason why I was so taken aback by it, when I saw it for the first time, maybe like Dan, I should have to watch it again and then be like, oh, I get it now. No, I should watch it with the expectation this is ridiculous, and then just love it. But I came out from the first movie, which I thought was quite good. Like, let's say, it's like going from I don't know. It's literally going from the first movie's Predator, the second movie's Transformers. It's like you make that jump, and the jump was so big. Maybe if there was a movie in between that kind of ramped it up, and then but it was just such a. It was like watching Doom 2, like this Bollywood movie. It's like all of a sudden it is so over the top, so fast, and I wasn't ready for it. Let's say it came out of nowhere, and I
think Wilco, I think it does warrant a second viewing. I love the tank drift. I have never seen anyone drift a tank before, and that happens in this film. And every time I watch that scene, I realize why I love this film. Not only that, I love I can't say the guy's last name, but Oleg, the Russian, the one who goes, "You just killed Dr. Chen." that is just, if he's not Zangief from Street Fighter in movie form in the middle of an African country, I don't know who else is.
You think that the drifting tank, that was the thing? Oh, but the scene after that was normal. The fact that he somehow jumps his tank, gets shot by the other tank, that makes him turn the tank. So he uses the fact that he gets shot by the other tank in order to turn his own tank, because for some reason they cannot turn the tank, and then break the barrel by just throwing. That's normal.
But by the point that happens, you've seen a one shot. It's not a one shot, but it looks like a one shot of Wu Jing jumping off a tanker underwater, capsizing a boat and kicking the shit out of people underwater.
Yeah.
Like you said, without taking a breath. You've seen him catch a rocket with a mattress protector.
Yes, he did.
You've seen him rescue a doctor from a hospital, coming in absolutely blind and smashing through the window.
Oh, yeah.
Then you've seen him drift a tank. By the time that happens, nothing is ridiculous.
One question, and this was puzzling me, and I thought it was super funny, but did I see this correctly or not? At one point, there is this heroic, that's why I think he's like Chuck Norris or Steven Seagal. The point that he has to get the doctor, he just goes into this car, crashes through the barrier, and then immediately goes to action. But when he does that, I see armed forces drive in. Did he just let the enemy in? Did he just crash through the barricade so that the freedom fighters could have an opening to go back in? Like, ooh, thanks, dude. Or were that the good guys? Were they part of the? Because he just crashes through a barricade, which is protected, just to go get that doctor, but it leaves it open, and then I see armed forces drive in. And it was like, did he just let the enemy in, or were that the good guys? Because it just looked really funny to me.
I think he only cared about rescuing Dr. Chen, who at that stage was already dead. So I don't think he cared too much. There was not much thinking in that film.
Were those other guys that came in, the armed guys, were those the freedom fighters, or were those the good guys? And then the good guys, they also didn't care. Like, oh, it's open now, let's go in. Like, they just went in.
Pretty sure they were all bad
guys. You guys were so pumped up by the action. It's like, yeah, go get the doctor, that you didn't notice that
at all. Do you both think it's patriotic enough?
What about you, Eric?
Patriotic enough. I don't know. A lot of those people died as well. I know that the concept, I was reading a few articles. It would be like, actually I have a few of the quotes right here, but like they, in terms of the propaganda, so to speak, this one is kind of like the, China will always be there for you type film. You know what I mean? Where it's like, I think there was a line, whoever offends China will be hunted down. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like the Chinese doctor is the one who's researching and trying to get that cure. You know what I mean? Then you got, Wu Jing coming in and like saving the day. And then you have the Chinese military coming in. So you get that almost like, it's almost kind of like Rambo-esque in the sense of, if you look at Rambo 3, when you have the American going into a foreign country to do business and right the wrongs, that maybe that country isn't capable of doing themselves. You get some of that here, which was kind of interesting. But I think the patriotism angle was actually pretty, I think it was well enough executed, I would say. At the end of the movie, you got Wu Jing kind of doing his thing, saving the main people, going back So I think it was sufficient. I think it was sufficient from a patriotic angle. I
laugh in that movie about a certain dialogue that involves the Chinese military not doing anything until they have the UN permission. And they really ram that down your throat. Like, we are not doing a single thing until the UN says we can. And I'm sitting there thinking, okay, if this was real life, and I don't want to get political on this channel, if this was real life, would that really be the case? And again, not for this channel, so let's not discuss. Let's discuss the movie.
Patriotic wise, I thought that the first half of the first movie was not patriotic at all. The film is also very personal. It's because they really target him because he was, the lead, because he was responsible for the death of the brother of the bad guy. So it was quite personal in that way.
Right.
It was the angle of the mercenaries and the Chinese army where it was more like the setting, let's say. But halfway through, then the patriotism kicked in. But I don't know if it was patriotism. It was China glorifying with the I fight for China, and the orchestral music comes up, and all of a sudden it's super feel good. It's like super cinematic. And it's like also, I think it was the line of the when also, by the way, everything goes to shit because one Chinese soldier died in the first movie. So you can say that the entire army was there to take revenge for this one fallen soldier. And that's also what they say. We should take back the honor that we lost. And then all of a sudden, the entire army is being mobilized in order to get these mercenaries. And it's also quite personal how then, the lead, Wu Jing, he just has to go through all these obstacles, run through mines in order to get the revenge for his fallen brother, let's say, but also to save his own ass, of course, with this very subtle little side plot that actually the bad guy has this virus that will kill Chinese. But, let's not focus on that too much. It's all about the personal journey of the lead, let's say. But the music and the fact that they have I fight for China patches on their uniforms, and also the fact that was the turning point of him winning. The fact that there was a close-up of the patch and he was reminded that he was fighting for China. Well, the bad guy says, you know what I fight for? I fight for cash or for money. Or, I fight for money. What do you fight for, China? Well, I fight for money. And it was also a very funny line in that dialogue, and I thought it was very Chinese, and I've been through this a lot. Is that the lead is complaining when Atkins is saying something really cool to him? It's like, oh, you just fight for China, I fight for money, and blah blah blah. What are you doing? And then the lead's like, you don't even speak Chinese. But at the moment that he was about to get stabbed, the moment he was about to die, the guy rips off that badge from his shoulder, and is like, oh, this is what you do it for. And then you see him almost dead, looking at that badge. I fight for China. And then he's reminded, yes, this is for China. And then he breaks out of it in that last moment. Normally it's like a reminder of a loved one dying. Actually, in an American movie, we would see flashback of his friend dying and the little kid. But no, in this movie, it's China. China is the reason why I'm fighting. And then he gets his last strength and then kicks Atkins' ass and wins the day. So that, I would say, is the patriotic part. But why I don't think it's really patriotic, but more glorifying of China, in his opinion, just he loves China, is the fact that the army technology is all bullshit. It's not real. It's all fake CG. It's all high-tech stuff. It's sure, there is Chinese stuff. There is military stuff in there, but most of it, what they're showing, the whole intelligence part, is all CG. It's all holograms and all this exaggerated Mission Impossible type of tech that doesn't really exist.
So can I say something? Can I say something that maybe will upset the both of you about Wolf Warrior 1? I find Wu Jing's character to be too weak in the first one. And I don't actually think he comes across as that great a hero, because he constantly gets beaten up. He constantly gets berated. He barely wins at the end.
He sweats a lot in that movie.
Oh,
yeah.
That is also, the sweat is ridiculous. All that water is like, that's on my list of funny things. The first thing it says, the sweat. You're soaking wet. It's like, the sweat was ridiculous. It's like,
and
in the
did it need the
beginning-
love interest from Nan Yu in there? Like, she's a
No,
beautiful
yeah.
woman,
Yeah.
and no one's going to say no to Nan Yu. No one. But did that need that love interest there?
No.
No.
But there's also, you mentioned that I fight for money line. That's the capitalism angle.
Yeah.
So I fight for money. The Westerner fights for money. And you also get like the teamwork speech during the beginning. The guy lectures Wu Jing. He's like, listen, we're the wolf warriors. A wolf individually can't take down a tiger, but a wolf in a pack are invincible. We don't need you showing off your individual skill, your individuality. And that's more of the China kind of communist type of ideal. So I did catch that.
Yep.
All right. Yeah, that's cool. But besides that, did you also notice that the change between the first movie and the second movie is that in the second movie he did get the product placement from Motai, but in the first one he didn't. By the way, which was ridiculous because nobody can drink that stuff, which is like 50-60% that way, the way he did. He tried to get him drunk, and he's just drinking like water. But in the first movie, it's clearly a white bottle with nothing on it. But then in the second movie, all those close-up shots of him drinking, clearly with the official brand facing the camera, and even a close-up in the store with the little boys sitting beside a big Motai poster, or what is it?
Now, I want to ask you both something about part 2, which it's probably one of the only bits that I have issue with in part 2. At the start, when Wu Jing and the other soldiers are at the village and they are trying to stop, they're giving the grieving mother back the message that the comrade had passed away. And then he's standing up for those villagers and he does the most awesome sidekick and the guy goes flying into a car windshield. But then he gets kicked out of the army. And I remember watching this going, no, he's right. Wu Jing did the right thing there. There is no way that soldier should be punished for what he did.
But that was the only time we saw the other guys from the first movie. I thought that was kind of disappointing. I didn't know what to expect from the first movie. So I thought he was actually a dick. He came there just pissed. All these local guys were, sure, they were assholes, but that's where the Chuck Norris kicked in. That's what, like, oh, you talk shit, and then immediately they beat up everyone without questions asked. Like,
I'm on Wu Jing's side on that one. I think he was well within his right to go to town because those police officers were just standing there, utterly useless. Which let's not talk about Chinese police officers, but he looks cool. Wu Jing, when he's dressed up in that army uniform, he looks awesome.
I thought it just did it for the story because that happens in both movies that he gets disgraced in the beginning. And the first time he shoots the guy, therefore he gets penalized, and that's why the other group picks him up. And then this time he goes to jail for basically beating up those guys.
Yeah. Didn't sit well with me. I didn't. That's the only bit I really didn't like.
One thing story-wise that I didn't understand.
Right, that's funny, Eric. But out of everything, that's the only bit I didn't like. All
right.
Yeah.
But beside that, there was one story point that I thought was not clear, and then only halfway the movie, because he had that bullet around his neck, and he was there in Africa for a reason, to find the bullet. But I never made the connection that was his love interest being dead. That was but later in the movie it was explained. He said it later in the movie, but it was like in the beginning, the only thing we know is he went to jail and she made him sign what I can only assume is divorce papers, and that's it. There was no idea that she was dead. Only later when he was going like, I need to find this bullet. I like, the bullets for who? Who died? Maybe it's that I missed it or something.
No, you're right. It was choppily executed.
And then, he and then later when he was talking to the beautiful nurse, then we noticed who died and what he was looking for and what his intentions were. But I missed it in the beginning. I was like, why is he looking for the bullet? Who died? Who's killed there? It's like, so I was confused about that point.
Eric, I remembered another bit that I thought was a bit of bullshit about Wolf Warrior 2. It cast your mind back to the scene where he's in the cave suffering from Lamala, or whatever the made-up disease is. All of a sudden, Selena Jade, the nurse, remembers that she's carrying the antibody with her. And
It was
she
experimental.
So she pulls out a syringe from God knows where, because I didn't see them pack any syringes. And then she takes a bit of her blood and puts it in Wu Jing. We assume this is what happens because it happens off camera. But Wu Jing wakes up with a carefully placed needle about a foot away from this poor little girl, just to tell the audience this is what happened. And he's miraculously better. Now, I don't know much about science, but that feels like a big mistake to me.
Probably.
I think it's more the time that should be a little longer
Yeah.
to create the antibodies, or maybe she already had them. Who knows? Maybe that's how the science works, Dan. That's how science works in China.
Well, that was actually Africa where that science was working. But then he gets the
Chinese.
poison. He gets the poison off that plant, and he
Mm.
puts it on the
Oh,
tips, and they work instantly.
Yeah.
As soon as he hits those guys, within a second, they start convulsing.
Well, you know, it's probably a highly rare neurotoxin, you know, that
He's just luckily enough to have it right there when he needs it.
All right. So in the chat, very quickly, one of our guys is saying, by the way, quick thank you to The Hobbit. Nebula, that was the name I was looking for. The actress was playing in Guardians of the Galaxy. But from Ronghao 1988, as a Chinese, China feels for us like our mother, who wasn't treated well from the world back in the time. So the feeling for fighting for China is like fighting for mom, and that's why the feeling is strong. Well, that's what helped him at the end of the first movie.
And that's cool. Hey, we all grew up with American movies in the 80s and 90s where the American soldiers did the same thing. So I've got no problem with China doing the same thing.
No.
In fact, my problem is now America doesn't do that anymore. Sorry,
I know.
Eric, but they just don't. I don't like this whole thing of America just not wanting to embrace their nationalism like they used to. We love Top Gun because he fought. He flew for the US. He recruited so many people I'm assuming that's the antidote, that Air Force recruitment numbers exploded because of Top Gun. And I can only assume the same thing happened with Wolf Warrior 2 in China, is that you had all these people wanting to be the world's best snipers.
Yeah.
I also don't think Wu Jing does enough sniping in part 2. I think it happens twice. He does. No, there's at the end he does. Yeah, not enough sniping. Really not enough.
So I want to go to the point of how the movie got made, and we talked a little bit about that before we started the show. But the first movie is clearly a low-budget movie, but it seems that he financed Wu Jing, who directed and written it, and also stars in it. By the way, he's not the only writer. There are more writers on there, and I noticed that one of the writers, and I had to go back to write it down because I saw it and was like, huh, did I see that correctly? So when the movie was over, I went back to the beginning to see if I saw it correctly. But it's written by one guy called The Last Guardian. So that's an interesting name. Talk about interesting name, and sees that the composer was called Dong Dong Dong. So those are just some funny names there. But point being is that the
maturity, Wilco.
Yeah. I'm sorry. Come on, Dong 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 or Dong Dong Dong.
Was it the same 3 characters though? Was it a different character?
No, I don't know. It was in English. It was Dong, the word Dong, and then his last name was Dong Dong. So
it puts the Chinese above it though.
My name is Dong. Dong Dong Dong. That's pretty cool, right? Anyway, so enough about the Dong. So the thing is
sorry, Eric.
That's fine.
So Wu Jing, who written, directed, stars, and you say he did the action too, Dan?
I don't think there's anything that Wu Jing didn't do. Wouldn't be surprised if he was next to the guys doing the computer effects too.
He basically financed the movie himself. He pulled a Kevin Smith to make the movie because he really tried to make the movie. He went everywhere to try to get it made, and everybody rejected him. People just told him it's not gonna work. It's not gonna work. This is not what people want. So he had to sell his own stuff, like Kevin Smith did, sell his comic book collection just to make his first movie. So he started to sell his stuff, but this movie was low budget, but still a few million. So I'm wondering what he sold or what he had to sell, let's say. So he basically put it together himself, and then it made 800 million and broke the box office. So he's kind of a legend in China. And after that movie, he even was bigger than Jackie Chan at one point. And actually, he still is with Wolf Warrior 2, because that is still the biggest box office movie to this point in China. And but I must say, him self-financing it and him. So when he made his first movie, when he broke the box office, all of a sudden everybody that rejected him the first time came to him for Wolf Warrior 2, and were like, "Hey, can we invest in the second movie?" And he said no. So he rejected all of them. He rejected all the guys that rejected him the first time.
Nice.
Yep.
And that was pretty cool. That's pretty sour. But I also think that maybe he said a few things to piss a few people off, because there are some things that I noticed. I found 2 articles that I think are very suspicious, because they really tried to take him down, because he got 2 copyright claims for the second movie. The first time was because he stole X-Men footage in the trailer, because there's a footage of rockets going through the sky, which Dan already noticed that was stock footage, you said.
I reckon it's PLA footage. Yeah.
Yeah. But anyway, in the trailer, when it first came out, that trailer had footage taken straight from the X-Men The Last Stand movie. And that was in the trailer. So he got a copyright for that. But then they changed that, no biggie. But then he got another copyright that was about the name Wolf Warrior. For some reason, he was being told not to use the name anymore, and he couldn't use it. He couldn't make money with it, and he could do nothing with that name. And he was also not allowed to put the second movie in theater. So for some reason, he pissed someone off to get those type of, or he really stole shit that we don't know about. But then the last thing I think is the most suspicious, and then I'm gonna let you comment on that. It seems that around that time, because this was 2015, this has direct correlation with the 2017 censorship, because in 2017 the second movie came out. And do you know what China, besides the whole no supernatural stuff and the no vicious killings and the no homosexuality, there were a few other things that all of a sudden were forbidden in the normal theater. And one was no patriotic movies.
Hey,
no patriotic movies that glorify Chinese military, and no movies that has foreign enemies. And then I'm like, that sounds very suspicious, because that's exactly what Wu Jing is making. Did he piss off the wrong people, that even the governmentally connected people are like, okay, well, he's becoming a little bit too powerful. He's making a little bit too much money, and he's got a big mouth. Maybe we should take him down a bit. You cannot release your movie because of this. Boom. Government got it. But yeah, the movie came out, or the law didn't go through, or he had his own connections. I don't know what happened there, but I thought that those were interesting behind the scenes stories. Let's say that they basically, it sounds to me that they try to take this guy down, because even the government has very specific laws all of a sudden of what is censored or what is not permitted, and it's exactly what he was making. Patriotic movies that glorify the Chinese military with foreign enemies, and that is exactly what was being pushed. That was no longer permitted to be shown in theater. That's insane.
Very interesting.
Yeah, I was utterly confused when I first read that, because in America, a halfway decent film makes a bunch of money and there's 15 sequels. So I was just assuming we would get Wolf Warrior 3 and Operation Red Sea Part 2, which we'll talk about, and I was stoked. Even in my reviews, I'm like, dude, if China keeps making movies like this, we're good to go, baby. And then all of a sudden, Wolf Warrior 3 gets like canceled. Yeah, I'm trying to figure out like what the heck's going on. I found an article here, and here's an article excerpt for you. It says, in addition to military topics, government officials are worried by content that could be perceived as excessively patriotic, which could unnerve foreign audiences and damage China's reputation abroad, according to industry executives. So Wolf Warrior 3 was announced in 2017, but canceled. And the government does not want films to make China appear aggressive, one informant said. So it's just so, I don't get it.
Yeah, you're right. You're 100% right. It was after Wolf Warrior 2. That's the disconnect I had in my story. Yes,
and that put a kink in Dante Lam making a third Operation film. He couldn't do it then.
Oh, that makes sense then. Okay. And it also makes sense now why the 800 and Sacrifice are not super positive stories.
No, they're historical.
They are stories of adversity. Well, I just got this picture on this screen because I want to draw both of your attention to the movie that's in number 4, The Wandering Earth.
Okay.
And Wu Jing is in The Wandering Earth. And the same thing happened with Wolf Warrior, happened with Wandering Earth. They couldn't get enough funding for the movie because it was a science fiction movie and no one in China will watch sci-fi. So Wu Jing believed in the project so much that he put his own money in there. However, he refused to be the action hero, which is why he plays just the astronaut who eventually passes away. But again, he put his money where his mouth is, and now he has movies number 1 and number 4 on that list.
Okay, wow. You know, in my opinion, the fact that the whole censorship thing happened, maybe they just think that these movies are too successful in China, and you know, these people that are not government all of a sudden have too much private money. Maybe they try to keep that down. Maybe, you know, because why would you have your most? Can you imagine Hollywood doing that? If all of a sudden they're so successful, and an American says, "No, you should stop making those profitable movies. We cannot have that in America." You know, that's just crazy.
All right, here's a few more excerpts if you want them.
Yeah, please.
China's top film regulator was merged, so they have the censorship board was merged with the ruling party's propaganda department in like 2017. So that led to several industry executives saying that there was a tightening in the restrictions in censorship. They say military topics are more sensitive, and the larger budget films receive greater scrutiny. So that's
well, maybe it is all the sci-fi stuff and the holograms. Maybe it was the military was more like, oh, we don't have that. We don't want to give the wrong idea, because then they will bring
the opposite,
weapons, and our weapons are not big enough.
Or it's the opposite, that they actually have that and they don't want to let anyone know. Because as we look with the next movie was funded by the PLA. Operation Red Sea was made by the PLA.
You know what? Let's go to the next movie. That's a good good bridge.
We can't do that yet. First, we have to wrap up and say Wolf Warrior 1 and 2. Eric, you go. What would you give him out of? Let's do something we've never done before. What would you give him out of 5?
Out of 5. Okay, so the first one I would give like a 3.5 out of 5. Good entertainment. The second one, I'd give like a 4.5. If I'm being honest. In terms of pure entertainment value. In terms of script writing, it's crap. But man, I could watch that movie, grab a few beers, and I could watch that a lot.
Mr. Wilco?
Okay, well, I have exactly the opposite of that. I'm very sorry, because like I said, I was won over by the first movie. Is it perfect? No. Therefore, I would want to give it a 5 out of 5, but then people were like, but that's not possible. So I will give it a 4.5. Because out of 5, come on, that's like a 9 out of 10. I will give it a 9 out of 10.
It's higher than Doban.
I think it's really good. And I think it is a potential to be a classic. And, you know, the flaws are what makes it, you know, so special, in my opinion. And then the second movie is so Michael Bay. It's so Bollywood. It's so over the top that I'll give it a 3 for my first viewing. Because personally I missed a little story. And that's only for my personal point of view. So maybe if I watch it a second time, knowing there is none, I can enjoy it better. But now, as it stands, I give a 4.5 for the first one, and I give a 3 for the second one. Out of 5. That is still good.
Upset you both. 2.5 for the first one. There's too many technical flaws in it for me to enjoy it. And when I see really bad green screening and all the green feathering around someone, and I think that is so easy to fix. I mean, look at this behind me. I don't have any. And if I can do it on a $100 camera, they can do it on their budget. I thought Wu Jing was too weak. I don't like the fact that he didn't feel like the action hero that I wanted him to be. But part 2, I've just made a new video about part 2 called 5 Awesome Things About Wolf Warrior 2. I think it's an easy 4.5. It's insane, and it needs to be. Now,